Another recent development is that we received, or the Ministry of National Security accepted 20 deportees from the United States, and they are now in the Ministry of Health's quarantine facilities. So at the Debe Penal Campus, we have 43 persons plus 2 female deportees from the batch of 20. So at Debe Penal Campus, we now have 45. At Chancellor, we still have 9. Tacarigua, there's no one there. Napa, we still have 18, but those are healthcare workers because, as you know, Napa is reserved for healthcare workers. Home of Football, we have 3. Sangre Grande Brooklyn Center, this is where we are housing the 24 nationals who came back from Venezuela, so there are 24 there. Well, the Enchantment of the Seas will have the remainder. UWI Canada Hall, where we had our Trinidadian students and Tobagonian students. We have 100 persons, and I'm happy to report that their latest swabs are all negative. So I think we can look forward. I'm advised by Dr. Mariam Richards that those 100 students may be going home between 2 and 4 p.m. today. So that's a very positive development for those students and their families. At the UWI Freedom Hall, where we have the contingent of Trinidadian and Tobagonian students coming back from Barbados, we have 46. They will be swabbed today, and let's hope all goes well. Once they are swabbed today and the results come back within the next day or two, hopefully they are negative. At the Kipok Hotel, where company is paying for 48 nationals, hopefully things will go well with them and they can be reunited with their families early next week. Cascadia, there are no persons there right now, and Cora, as we said initially, there are 7. We have operationalized for the deportees, the male deportees, facility Vision on Mission in Claxton Bay, which is under our care. And we have 18 male deportees there. They are being swabbed today. And again, we hope and pray for the best. So that's the update of where we are, and the very latest on the 2 new cases that I say came to light 15 minutes ago, and new information as it relates to the 20 deportees, 2 females, 18 males, and where they are housed. Thank you very much, Minister Cox.
Thank you very much, Minister. This morning we are happy to have the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Colum Imbert, who will speak on salary relief and fuel grants, small and medium-sized enterprises, tax refunds, and the credit union loan program. Minister Imbert.
Thank you. Good morning. I am pleased to be able to report on the progress being made with the COVID-19 financial support grants and programs. I've received some information from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, so perhaps I can start with that. With respect to the food cards, I'm advised by that ministry that to date they have given additional support to existing beneficiaries within the food card system, totaling support to 25,000 persons. Better? Yeah. The support, additional support given to beneficiaries of food cards as they are known. The total number of persons who got additional support, 25,101, for total expenditure of $17.14 million. In terms of food support for new persons who were not within the system prior to the public health restrictions, these would be persons who lost their jobs or have lost their income or part of it. I'm advised that the ministry has so far assisted 29,399 persons for a total cost of $45 million. So when you add the two together, the total additional food support over the period through the food card system and otherwise, $64 million so far. With respect to persons who may have had children on the school feeding program, I'm advised that 20,500 persons were assisted for a total cost of $31.4 million. I might add that while all of this is going on, there are 26,000 persons on permanent food cards, which is costing us $146 million. The Ministry of Social Development has also topped up existing beneficiaries of public assistance and disability assistance, assisting some 17,824 persons for a total cost of $11.4 million. In addition, persons who have applied for the senior citizens pension but have not yet had their pensions finalized, in other words, their applications are in process. The ministry has assisted them with food support as well, 2,818 persons for a total $12.6 million. Food support has also gone to persons who applied for disability assistance, but their matters are not yet determined, 500 persons at a cost of $1.5 million. Emergency hampers have been provided to 1,400 families at a total cost of $500,000. And market boxes also provided to 11,900 families at a total cost of $3 million. So far, rental assistance has been provided to 1,133 families at a total cost of $4.8 million. In addition, the Ministry of Social Development is coordinating with the Office of the Prime Minister to provide funding to religious organizations who would use their normal food distribution mechanisms to assist the poor and needy. I'm advised that 67 religious organizations, umbrella organizations, have been assisted to date with the first tranche, totaling $9.7 million. And of this 67, 34 groups have already reported so far on the first month, indicating that they distributed a total of 41,314 hampers. With respect to the salary relief grant, as of a few days ago, the report I have is up to the 24th, I'm advised that the total number of persons who have received a salary grant is 26,000 persons, and that is the first salary relief grant, first month, the month of April. We are now processing the month of May, and so far 16,500 persons have received salary relief grants for the month of May. When you add the two together, you get 42,000 salary relief grants paid out already. You have to add to that the income support grants being provided by the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services for persons who are not within the national insurance system. The grants I referred to, the salary relief grant, are for persons within the national insurance system. In other words, they are registered with the NIS. For persons, the self-employed and other persons in the informal system, we're helping them as well. And I'm advised by the Ministry of Social Development, they have helped and processed some 29,000 income support payments, bringing the total income support payments, when you add it all together, to over 70,000. So that is where we are right now, and we continue to provide assistance on a daily basis with all of these grants. With respect to maxi taxi drivers and taxi drivers, the Ministry of Works and Transport has been made available a total of $21 million to provide funding for a fuel grant for maxi taxi operators and regular route taxi operators. That process is ongoing, and the Ministry of Works and Transport is processing those applications on a weekly basis. With respect to tax refunds, I'm pleased to say that the first tranche of VAT bonds, this is refunds for value-added tax which are being paid through fully tradable and fully encashable VAT bonds, we have completed the first tranche of $1 billion. So we have issued bonds to the tune of $1 billion. I'm also pleased to say that the Cabinet also approved the second tranche, which is for $2 billion, which we expect to start issuing within the next week or so. We did the first tranche very quickly. Within 2 to 3 weeks, we issued this $1 billion in VAT refunds via bonds, and I expect similarly the next $2 billion will be issued within the next 3 weeks or so, so that I would say by the middle of July or the third week in July, the Ministry of Finance would have issued $3 billion in tax refunds, value-added tax refunds via VAT bonds. And this is in addition to the cash refunds that we have issued in terms of individual income tax refunds, in terms of corporation tax refunds, and in terms of VAT refunds in cash. That is another $700 million. So that in 2020, we have so far issued $1.7 billion in tax refunds. In terms of the other facilities, the legal paperwork has been completed for the Small and Medium Enterprise Guarantee Loan Facility. Advertisements will come out in the newspapers over this weekend and next week. That is being managed by First Citizens Bank in collaboration with Republic Bank. I'm told that the other two banks, Scotiabank and Royal Bank, have indicated willingness to join the program, so that if all goes according to plan, the 4 main commercial banks will be participating in this guarantee loan program, but it will start off with First Citizens and Republic Bank. And that program provides $300 million in a loan guarantee program to small and medium enterprises, which we have defined as enterprises with an annual turnover of between 1 million and 20 million. If you can do the maths, that is monthly turnover of perhaps $80,000. Sales, total sales, that's the low point, and then the higher point would be in the vicinity of say 1.6 million per month. The enterprises below 1 million who have sales of less than 1 million per year are going to be the recipients of a grant program. Cabinet has approved that as well, a $30 million grant program, which we are now finalizing with the National Entrepreneurship Development Company. So that the SME loan program will kick off next week. I'm told by FCB that they expect to process the first loan by Thursday of next week, and that this is expected to move very, very swiftly. What the government is doing, the government is paying all of the interest on the loans, which range, depending on the size of the organization, from $75,000 up to $325,000. And these are intended to assist with payroll expenses and other operational expenses. The government will pay all of the interest on these loans, so the loans are interest-free for small and medium enterprises, and the government is also guaranteeing 75% of the loan. So this is a very generous loan program, and it's all in the context of trying to help our business community to keep people in jobs. The small businesses will also not have to make any payments whatsoever on the loans for the first 2 years. And remember, we at the government level are paying the interest. So all that the small businesses will be required to do is to repay the principal, and they don't have to make any payments for the first 2 years. In terms of the credit union arrangement, we've made $100 million available to the credit unions. The way this is working, the credit unions will make loans available to their members virtually all of the financial credit unions have signed on to the program. I personally have signed agreements with all of them and the two umbrella bodies, the Credit Union League and the Credit Union Financing Facility. And the way the process works, credit union members go to the credit unions, apply for the loans, which are a maximum of $5,000 a month for 3 months, up to $15,000 at very attractive rates with moratoriums and so on. And as the credit unions process the loans, they will apply to the Ministry of Finance for reimbursement on a monthly basis. So that's in train, and we expect to receive the first application from the credit unions shortly so that we can reimburse them for the loans that they have made. But they are going ahead and using their own funds to speed up the process and then applying to us to reimburse. We also are making a further $100 million. That program is a $100 million program. That's for individuals primarily. And we're making a further $100 million available to credit unions for small businesses. They're currently working out the details, and they will come back to us very shortly on how they plan to disburse these loans to small businesses. We also have provided the Exim Bank with an additional US $25 million per month to deal with importation of essential foods, pharmaceuticals, sanitary products, personal protective equipment, and other essential supplies during the period of COVID-19. And we're doing that for 3 months. And it is working very well. And therefore, there are no shortages in terms of essential foods, pharmaceuticals, sanitary products, and so on, because of this special US dollar forex window. We also provided support to students at UWI, Mona, and KFL campuses to help them with the purchase of food. And as the minister just told you, these students have returned, and I understand from what you say, they'll be allowed to go home today if all goes well, so that's worked out quite well. We've also been able to award contracts through the National Insurance Property Development Company, NIPDEC, for face masks, and I'm very happy to say that that NIPDEC has awarded contracts for the manufacture of 465,000 cloth face masks to a variety of small, medium, and large stitchers. I understand that's a technical term. Small stitchers would get 1,000, 3,000 to do. As we go up the chain, 10,000, 20,000, that sort of thing. We've done it all at a uniform price of $10 per mask. So we have leveled the playing field, so everyone is getting $10 per mask. That will cost us $4.65 million, and those 465,000 cloth face masks are currently in production, and they will be sent to NGOs such as Feel for distribution to the public free of charge. And I'm now willing to answer any questions that may be posed.
Thank you very much, Minister, for such a comprehensive information on what the government has been doing. Members of the media, the floor is now open. Remember to identify yourself and the media house you represent before posing your question. We want to give as many of you an opportunity to pose questions to us, but that means in our limited time, we will have to give each media house a chance to get a maximum of 2 questions in. Once we have completed the pool and time allows, I will come back to you. So let us keep this in mind as we begin taking your questions. ACP News.
Hi, good morning. Priya Bihari, acpnews.com. Minister of Health, since we have had these positive cases so late in the stay of these individuals at the Chapman of the Seas, is it still a belief of the Health Ministry that they contracted it before they arrived on the vessel? One, and the Minister of Finance, since the price of oil is relatively low, are we making money at gasoline at the pump, and is any consideration being given to reduce the price at the pump for premium or super gasoline at this point in time?
The
Thank you.
Minister of Health will answer first, please.
Okay, thank you, Prior, and good morning to you. Okay, it is difficult for me to say right now when and where these persons contracted coronavirus. But what I could tell you is that I am happy that at the ministry we took the decision to be buttressed by the scientific information and not to give in to the pressure placed by those persons on the ship, which was reflected in questions here, to have them have free access to the ship. I think if we had given in to that public pressure and the pressure coming from them to have free access to walk about, mix and mingle, what we'll be faced with this morning is not 2 additional cases. It could have been 20, 25 or 200. So I think the takeaway prior is that whilst we have a duty to listen to all views, and you have a duty to carry the views of persons who are in quarantine, the duty of the Ministry of Health is to protect those same persons. And as I said, if we had allowed them free reign of the vessel and the number of infections went up significantly, they would not be allowed to leave the cruise ship as early as they can leave now. So I think the takeaway is, 1, I can't say when and where they contracted, and 2, our protocols of quarantine need to be adhered to in the interest of their own safety and sending them home earlier, as if we had allowed them free reign and 200 persons contracted coronavirus. Thank you very much.
Minister of Health?
Minister of
Minister of Finance?
Mr. Bihari, we are still subsidizing diesel to a significant extent, so that you have to look at it in its totality, whereas the price of premium super may be a bit higher than world market. The price of diesel that we sell diesel at in Trinidad and Tobago is below world market prices. So it all levels off. The subsidy has come down a lot, the annual subsidy. It used to be $7 billion, you may recall. 2014, I think that's what the figure was. We got it down to below $1 billion. It's now in the last figure I saw was 280 million for 2020. So that we're still in a situation where we're subsidizing the overall cost of fuel. While we're on that, I might also say that the petroleum dealers have been asking us for relief, and that will be a cost, because the money that is generated from the sale of petroleum fuels is shared with the petroleum dealers, and they get a markup, they get a margin, it's called, and they have been making representations now for months for assistance, even before COVID, with respect to the marginal nature of their business, and that is under active consideration. So if that occurs, that will also be another expense that has to be taken into its totality. So we are leaving the prices as is for now.
Thank you. We move to 98.1.
Good morning, Ministers. Stephen Cummings, 98.1 FM. 2 questions, one for Minister Dayal Singh and the other for Minister Embert. Minister Dayal Singh, there are reports of an apparent local production of some alcohol-based hand rubs or sanitizers, which the ministry, in a statement, said contained methanol or similar toxic substances. Have we been able to get any further information on these products? Do you know which brands are we talking about? Specifically, what are we looking for?
Okay.
And
sorry.
And Minister Embert, Minister, how much has COVID-19 to date, as of June 2020, cost the country? Do we have a financial buffer to really carry such a costly, let's say, parallel healthcare system to, let's say, December 2020? Because we're hearing about particular types of drugs that are costing between $100,000 and $200,000 per patient. Thank you.
Thank you. So the issue with the sanitizers is one where the incorrect product was used. Methanol is not to be used in hand sanitizers. There are certain types of alcohols to be used, like isopropyl alcohol, and the formulae for hand sanitizers talks to the strengths. We discovered this issue where methanol was being incorrectly used, and between the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Health, Chemistry, Food and Drugs, we will do the necessary corrective measures, which includes pulling them off the shelves to make sure that the public's interest is always served. Thank you very much.
Mr. Finance?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Mr. Cummings, I have been at pains in the Parliament and inside and outside of the Parliament to give our figures in terms of what we expect in terms of revenue shortfall and what we expect in terms of funding arrangements and what we expect in terms of expenditure, particularly in terms of additional expenditure from COVID. I'm very pleased to report to you that we are on target. We have been able to finalize many of the sources of funding that I have been speaking about in the Parliament for the last couple of months. Yesterday, for example, I signed 2 loan agreements with the Andean Development Bank. One is for $100 million US. The other one is for $50 million US. And these are fast-tracked loans specifically designed to deal with financial support or buffers, if you want to call it that, to deal with the fallout and the economic effects of COVID-19. Those 2 loans together would give us $150 million US. That's about $1 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars. And we should expect to get that within the next week or so. Me having signed the agreement yesterday. I also yesterday, just as an aside, signed the agreement for the small and medium enterprise loan facility with First Citizens Bank. So all of the paperwork has been done for that as well. Earlier this week on Monday, we had a very successful international bond offering where we went to the market to raise $500 million US, $250 million US of which was designed to repay a bond that's maturing on Tuesday, a $250 million US bond taken out in the year 2000. And the other $250 million was for financial support for COVID. And as you may have heard me say, we were extremely successful with that financing arrangement. We were oversubscribed by 220% within 3 hours. We had offers of over $1.6 billion US from all of the big financiers in the United States, from Goldman Sachs, from T.G. Rowe Price, from Vanguard, etc. So we got that additional $250 million US, 1.7 billion TT, into our bank account on Friday. So that we are well on track in terms of our projections, in terms of our planning. Everything is going according to plan. And as I indicated previously, we are in a position to provide the health sector, the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, and everybody within the health sector with all of the financing that they have told us that they require going forward towards the end of this year. So that's your answer.
Just to go back to the first question, Mr. Cummins, the types of alcohols recommended by WHO and everyone else to make effective hand sanitizers are in fact ethanol and isopropyl alcohol, not methanol. So I'm glad that our regulatory agencies caught this, and that's a good sign. Okay, thank you.
Newsday.
Good day. Janelle D'Souza from Newsday.
Good day.
My both questions are for Minister Imbert. Will the Ministry or BIR revise taxes since businesses are facing losses as appealed by the Chamber? As well, is the government considering giving a further deferral through TTMF with respect to mortgages?
That request is unreasonable because at the same time that we are being asked by the business community to defer the collection of taxes, we are being also asked by the business community to provide financial support. Now, money doesn't grow on trees. And the said business community has also indicated that we should be careful about not borrowing too much money, be careful about not drawing too much money out of the Heritage Fund. So the money has to come from somewhere. and I've made this point over and over, that if we are to provide the support, such as the support we are providing, for example, that small business guarantee loan program, which I signed the agreement with FCB for yesterday, we have had to borrow $269 million, because the way the guarantee is working is that an escrow account is being established into which $269 million is being placed. So when these small businesses borrow the money, even though they don't have to repay for a period of 2 years, they will eventually have to start repaying 2 years from now in the year 2022. And if they default, the government has provided this money. That's the only way it could be done, so that the banks can access this fund after they go through all their normal collection procedures. And if the businesses still default and don't pay back the loans, that $269 million is available to the banks to deal with the fallout from defaulters. So that we don't have the capacity to say, all right, we will stop collecting income tax, we will stop collecting value-added tax, we'll stop collecting corporation tax, royalties, customs duties. We could do that, of course, but then the country would have no revenue whatsoever. We would not be able to give out food cards, salary grants, income support, rental assistance, small business assistance, credit union assistance, and so on. So those requests are unreasonable, and we can't entertain them at this time, because it would make it impossible for us to give the support to the said business community that is asking us for the support.
Thank you, Minister of Health.
Yes.
This person wanted to know, now that you stated that there are more persons, more cases tested positive from the cruise ship, if this means that the crew members have to restart their quarantine.
The crew members?
Yes, the other crew members, if they have to restart quarantine.
Well, remember, the crew members who manage the ship, and to the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I'll have to check, may not be citizens or residents of Trinidad and Tobago.
Off the ship anyway.
Yeah, so
the
the question doesn't arise.
Well, I believe that they could be thinking about the other persons on the cruise ship.
Well,
So
I spoke to the chief medical officer on that this morning,
yes.
and he is making that decision today, as a matter of fact.
Okay, good.
Right?
Thank you. 91.9.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. For the next of all, 91.9 FM. Just two quick questions. Firstly, as we come to the end of June, that would take us to the end of the first 3-month period that was allotted for persons to access grants, rental assistance, and so on and so forth. However, there are airport workers who would have to have an extended set of leave, considering that the borders are still closed and they don't have jobs, especially if they're working for international flights and so on. Is any provision being made for them to have access to these loans or grants or anything in that particular respect? Moving past the end of June? And also, a number of different parents may be wondering now, as book lists loom large, as the Ministry of Education has indicated that you are going to face promotions for school children. They want to know, are they going to get support from the Ministry of Finance, Social Development, or any other support in terms of trying to deal with the purchase of books and that kind of thing in the new semester? And Minister of Finance, if you could just recap the 100 million on the credit unions for the individuals that you are working on. I just think that detail went over a few heads. If you could recap that too, that'll be helpful as well.
Well, you're asking so much questions.
That's supposed to be
I'll
two questions.
I'll probably have to take notes next time.
Which are the two questions you'd like to get answered first?
All right, if we could address the airport workers in particular, and they being able to access the grants later on, as well as the parents who would like to get some support for school books.
Okay.
All right, I'm happy to say that in the context of people who may be outside the normal system, I went to Cabinet this week and I got Cabinet approval to deal with a particular group of workers. These are people who would have been within the private school system, because our cutoff date at the Ministry of Finance for salary relief grants is from the first publication of public health restrictions, which was on the 19th of March. But we have recognized that there are persons within the school system. Remember, the schools were closed first, so before the 19th of March. And there may be people, or there are people within the private school system and so on, other persons not working for the state, who would have been out of work from around the 11th or 12th of March when the schools were closed. So I got cabinet approval. Cabinet agreed to bring back the date for that particular category. Now you have raised another category, which is persons who would be out of work because our borders are closed. And I am certain that favorable consideration can be given to that kind of category. Somebody who falls outside of the regular batch of people. Okay?
Mr. of Health, you okay?
Yes.
All right, good.
There was nothing
We
for me
go
there.
back to AZP News. One question, please, Prior.
Sure. Hi, morning, Minister of Health. You had promised to get back to us on the issue of private lessons because there are a number of private lessons still taking place, and parents are concerned if what are the protocols, and there are also a lot of private schools that have an SA classes, etc. And they're a bit anxious to find out about what if there are protocols in place and what should be followed. I do want to follow up on that. Thanks.
So what I did indicate on Wednesday is that the chief medical officer is looking, and I use the term, all these gray areas, because as we move from managing the health crisis to managing expectations, because what we are doing now, Prior, is managing expectations. So as we manage these expectations, the chief medical officer and I have been having these discussions about gray areas. For instance, and I said it on Wednesday, sports. We don't want young children to be in sports right now. But then what happens to the 17-year-old footballer who is playing pro league? So you have all these gray areas coming up now as we manage expectations because of success. And the issue of lessons and so on is one of those areas that we are looking at. And I hope to have the chief medical officer here on Monday to flesh out some sort of policy direction going forward I can't say all, for most of these gray areas. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, I go back to the Minister of Finance. I think there was an area Minister of Finance considering the books.
Yes, that is not something that we have considered at this time. We have to look at each one of these requests on a case-by-case basis. So the question of providing some sort of financial assistance for school books is something that would have to be considered, but it is not something that we have considered yet. As you will appreciate, these things come up on a dynamic basis. It's not static. Things arise every day. So you've just raised a point, which is something we need to look at. So I can't give any commitment at this time, except a commitment that we will look very seriously and see whether anything can be done about that.
Okay, we go back to Newsday. One question, please.
Yes, good day. I just wanted to repeat my question from earlier about the deferrals through TTMF. Would that be considered with mortgages?
Okay, I've had requests from persons who are HDC tenants. HDC had originally agreed to defer payments for 2 months, and I've had requests coming to me. I mean, I'm not the minister of HDC, but I mean, this is a cabinet decision, and it's essentially a finance matter at the end of the day. I've had requests coming to me for a 3 months deferral, and it is something I've asked the board of the HDC to look at. And certainly I can ask the board of the TTMF to look at an additional month's deferral for mortgage payments so that it will be 3 months. All right, but I can't give a commitment at this point in time because, again, that is something new. The HCC one I could speak about because I've asked them to look and see if they could extend it to 3 months. I will ask TTMF to see what they could do. But all of these things have a financial implication. They don't stand on their own. There is a cost attached to that. Because if TTMF, for example, stops collecting its monthly payments, that's a whole month's income gone for TTMF. So everything has a financial implication, but we'll try and see what we could do to help people.
Okay, we go back to 98.1. Stephen Cummings.
Yes,
One question,
thank you
please.
so much again. Thank you so much again, Minister. Minister Dayal Singh, this question is in the interest of the stability of the health sector. And it relates to the Trinidad and Tobago, the registered nursing council. They have been threatening action, and they have had, various. They've been engaged in various types of, activity over the past couple of weeks. I know that July 1st was that date. They said that there will be some kind of escalation. Has there been any settlement? I know that I heard something about some payments being made or guaranteed. What is the latest there? And can we be assured that there will be a cooling of tempers, as it were, going into this, going into the next few months?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I could tell you my temper is very cool. The healthcare system is very stable at this point in time. The president of the TTRNA wrote to me formally, I believe last week, Wednesday, requesting a meeting. We are meeting on Monday morning, and we hope to have very fruitful talks with the TTRNA on Monday morning. I would not like to prejudge those talks by speaking out of turn right now, but the healthcare system is very stable as we speak. Thank you.
And I'd just like to come in here to clear up a misunderstanding that emerged with respect to a matter in the health sector a couple of weeks ago. You may recall there was an issue with payment of back pay for increments for workers, I think, at the North Central RHA. Now, that's a very old issue that actually dated back to the UNC days. It's not a PNM thing. What happened is that when the PNM came in, they discovered that the previous administration had promised increments to these workers, I think it was 2013 or 2014, and we decided to make the workers current. The Minister of Health and his people at the North Central RHA decided to pay the increments. But of course, there was a question of arrears, which would have been accumulating from the 2013-2014 period, and the money just wasn't available at the time. This decision to bring workers up to date and make them current was in around 2017. But there certainly wasn't enough money available to pay the back pay, which was about $40 million. What the North Central RHA did is it was very innovative, and through rental of their premises and other fundraising measures, they were able to accumulate $20 million and have it in a fund towards the $40 million. When the issue arose, the people from North Central contacted me, and I said, look, do you have enough money in your account to settle the entire thing? Because there was an argument as to, it shouldn't be part payment, it should be full payment. And I agreed with that position that if we're going to pay, we should pay the whole thing. So that the North Central RHA did tell me that they had some money that they had received for COVID-19 expenses that they could apply towards this. So I gave them permission to do that, and I then replenished it in the supplementary appropriation and mid-year review. So this is something where funds that had been allocated for another purpose were repurposed and approved to deal with this. In other words, it wasn't money that fell from the sky like manna. It wasn't plucked from a money tree and just given to NCRHA. It was just a very innovative use of funds that they already had. I just wanted to make that point.
Mr. Imbert, there's a question online concerning grants. You mentioned that payments were made for April, and the person wants to know if it's, it's going to be by lump sum or month by month. If you can explain that, please.
Well, it's interesting. I made it very clear we had started to make May payments as well. So we pay April, May, June. I mean, you pay a person for loss of a job if they're out of a job. The economy has been systematically reopened from this month, and therefore quite a few people are back in jobs, some are not. So that as we pay these grants, it has to be established that the person is still unemployed, because what you don't want is that somebody has returned to work and they're still applying for a grant, and I'm sure some people may very well receive it. So we pay on a monthly basis based on evidence that the person is still out of the job. So we paid April and we're now paying May, because persons have provided the required evidence that they're still out of a job for May, and June will be the same thing. So we've done April, we've done most of May, and we'll be doing June very soon.
We have another question from 91.9. One question, please.
Yes, sorry about that. Vern again, 91. Just quickly, Minister, the $100 million loan program.
Oh, yes,
that
the credit union.
accessible to
Okay,
credit
let me
unions.
explain
Yes,
what
please.
that is. As Minister of Finance, I've signed agreements with virtually every single financial credit union. You have to understand there are different types of credit unions, but there are financial credit unions that offer loan facilities and so on. And I've signed agreements with virtually every single financial credit union in Trinidad and in Tobago. And these agreements allow the credit unions to provide loans to their members as individuals of $5,000 per month for up to 3 months. So it's really to tide people over. You know, they have lost their jobs, whatever. So you're getting $5,000 a month for 3 months, up to a maximum of that. And then there would be very favorable loan conditions for the repayment of these loans over a long period of time with moratorium, low interest rate, that sort of thing. And what the credit unions told us is that they have sufficient funds to make these loans available to their members immediately. And then they will apply to the Ministry of Finance on a monthly basis for reimbursement. So the credit unions themselves will only be out of pocket for a month or so, and then we reimburse. They will come back to us and tell us we have issued loans to our members in the amount of $10 million, and they provide us with the documentation, and we will reimburse them the $10 million, and then the next month they come again and say the next set of loans they've given to their members and so on. That's for individuals. We also made available a further $100 million to the credit union movement for small businesses. And they are currently finalizing, they hired a consultant, and they are currently finalizing how they will go about giving these small business loans. And I expect to get some feedback from them in the coming week. I don't know if that solves your clarification issue, sir.
Thank you, Minister. TV6, one question, please.
Good morning.
Hi, morning,
Good
Vanessa.
morning.
Hi, I'd like to please beg your indulgence for 2 questions, seeing as I did not have questions before. But a relative of someone on the enchantment of the seas of a member on that vessel called the newsroom saying that they were told by their employer that they also need to go into quarantine, but that they were not told whether they would be paid for that period while they are in quarantine because they are expecting their relatives to come home. They were told that this is mandatory. So could you speak to
I
this?
need more details.
I don't understand the question, Vanessa. You need to clarify your question.
All right, someone called into the newsroom. They are a relative of one of the persons on the enchantment of the seas.
A crew member or a national?
A relative of one of the nationals
Right,
on
okay.
the vessel, right? So they said that their employer told them that they would have to also go into quarantine, right?
That who has
Because
to
they
go
would
into
be-
quarantine?
The relatives.
The relatives
Yes,
who is
they would have to stay
on
home.
land in Trinidad?
Yes.
No,
they would
Vanessa,
have
that
to-
is absolutely untrue, makes no sense, and that is not part of any protocol that we have. So,
Okay.
I have answered your question.
And,
All right, let's
Okay.
go with your second question, please.
to Minister Imbert, with the port workers protesting, they're calling for a meeting with you before Tuesday. You indicated that it would be Tuesday, and they are saying, based on the critical nature of their job, they would really think that the meeting could be held before Tuesday. Do you have any response to this?
Okay, Minister Imbert can answer this question if he would like to, but I just want to remind everyone that your questions are supposed to be COVID-19 related.
Yes, that is not a COVID-19 question. I'd be happy to answer it in another forum in the coming week. No problem at all.
Okay, Minister of Health.
Yes.
There has been some concerns about bars.
Oh boy.
There are a lot of questions and people are seeing a lot of things happening with the reopening of bars. What could you tell us?
Okay. The issue of bars, and this is why we left bars for last, because at an earlier press conference I did indicate that the nature of the activities of bars is one that will not lend itself to proper public health measures. If you look globally at what is happening when bars open, one of the flashpoints for increased number of cases is in fact bars, beaches, and so on. In many countries, states, regions, and sometimes entire countries have had to re-lock down their economy, put more people out of work because of the behavior of patrons in bars. We are sadly noticing that now happening in Trinidad and Tobago, more Trinidad. There's a video circulating about a bar in Chaguanas, a bar in North Trinidad, where the bars are jam-packed, people are in each other's faces, partying, and it's very disturbing. So we are going to do two things this morning. One, we are asking both bar owners and patrons to please exercise some discretion in how you use bars, how you operate bars is for your own good. However, the Chief Medical Officer and myself are now looking at what stricter measures we can put to manage the operations in bars, because the free-for-all that is happening has the potential of taking this country back to where it was 3 months ago. And we can't allow that. You just heard the Minister of Finance saying how many hundreds of millions of dollars that the taxpayer is spending in all of these types of relief. But we can't let one sector of the business community operate in such a way that will do two things. One, send us back to where we were 3 months ago, have more people unemployed, put more strain on the healthcare system. So, in closing, I am asking bar owners and patrons to manage your operations. I am asking patrons to exercise some caution, but we are going to be looking from today. We have started already to see what special regulations we can put in to manage the operations of bars and to curtail the type of behavior we are seeing in bars. It's very disturbing.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister Imbert, there's a question related to the extension to the changing of old $100 notes. As this person is stating that persons came into the country to change their notes, and the deadline came and went during their quarantine. What did you have to say about that?
I have received a letter from someone who told me that they found themselves in that situation. However, the way the changeover of the $100 bill was set up is that there was a final deadline. And that final deadline, it did expire on the 31st of March. In order to allow persons to change notes, I mean, I get letters every day, literally, from people who say they're going through their cupboard and they found $100, they found $1,000, some even say they found $10,000. So, I mean, this is not something unique to anybody. This is something that I get sent to me, as I said, virtually every day. Someone has just suddenly discovered that they had $1,000, $5,000 in a drawer somewhere. At this time, it's not legally possible. It would require an amendment to the law. And that is something the Cabinet would have to decide. So there's no decision at this point in time to create a new window for the changing of all $100 notes that people have suddenly discovered, or like this person just unfortunately was not in a position to have it changed. But as a matter for the Cabinet, and I'm sure the Cabinet will give it proper attention in due course.
I just want to come back to the issues of the bars, Minister Cox, if you don't mind. You know, prior to bars being opened, the bar owners were advocating they should be opened. They want to do business. Loss of jobs, loss of income, factories making alcoholic products, chasers, whatever. and they were advocating for bars to be opened. We opened the bars. All we are asking now is for people to accept the fact we are still in the middle of a global pandemic. And your one industry, which you asked to be opened, which we opened, has now been reopened in a most, should I choose my words carefully, irresponsible manner. A most irresponsible manner. We don't as a Ministry of Health have to recommend the shutting down of bars. We don't. But to protect the health of 1.4 million people, if bar owners and patrons keep doing this, it may be something we may have to look at to shut down bars again. But we don't want to do that. We just ask people, in the interest of public safety and health, just behave responsibly. This is my appeal to bar owners and patrons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, members of the media, to the viewing and listening audience. We've come to the end of today's virtual media conference. Do remember that the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Communications are your only credible sources of government information on COVID-19. And as we go, we wanted to remind you that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has taken no decision on the hosting of Carnival 2021. A statement issued earlier this week by the Ministry of Community Development, Culture and the Arts reiterated that the government is in a holding stage concerning our internationally acclaimed festival. The ministry categorically stated the decision to host next year's carnival will be based on many factors, including the situation here at home, regionally and internationally. And what this means is that every decision will be taken with due care and concern for the health and well-being of this country's population. The ministry has promised to keep key stakeholders of Carnival apprised of any decision as it relates to the hosting of Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival for 2021. I am Donna Cox, Minister of Communications. Thank you for joining us today as the government continues its efforts to keep the curve flat and beat COVID-19. Stay safe. May God bless Trinidad and Tobago.